Chris Dimakos is our CJAD 800 legal contributor, and today, I love this, Chris, we're going to talk potholes. I thought we were done, but the good news is, you know what, if you have a claim against the city, and I know there's been a lot of talk about this, I know we had the city's head of the executive committee, Claude Pinard, on a couple of weeks ago, talking about the fact that the city is now taking this seriously, but what happens if you are one of those people who claim for pothole damage for your car? So what's the deal? How do you start here, and what changes based on what the city said, if anything?
Right. So just a general principle here. The cities, they many years ago, they have this legislation that protects them under normal circumstances. So just because you get a flat tire somewhere, they have immunity when all things considered. There's a nail on the road. There was something that caused a flat. The only time that the city can be found liable for damages to your tires and your suspension is when there's something that's out of the ordinary, something like a pothole, a big pothole, something that should have been fixed, that shouldn't have been there from the start.
Well, hold on. When you said, as soon as you said it's got to be a big pothole, I thought the idea was even if it's a regular pothole and you reported it and nothing's been done for, say, 2 weeks, doesn't that qualify you regardless of the size of the pothole?
It absolutely does.
Okay.
Where I was going with that was the city has to be able to show that they were, even though that pothole was there, if they did everything by the book and they were reasonable and they had crews working, but it's just, the temperature was such that there was a tremendous amount of potholes, a freeze to a thaw, the courts will give them leniency if they're doing everything they're supposed to doing. They've staffed the right amount of people. And they just can't be everywhere at once. So it's not impossible for a city to defend itself if they can show that they've been really diligent and they've done what they could do, and you couldn't ask for more. That being said, when you do have a pothole that hasn't been seen for a couple of weeks, that is a presumption that the city didn't do their job. If you have a pothole that is, really large in size, that it would be very, very evident that people would call it in, and the city didn't act quickly enough, they'd be filed liable in that case also. So when you hear the headlines of the city saying, we've had two trucks that are constantly in repair, they're not working, we didn't have the right tender and bid process where we weren't able to hire enough people, and they're basically making admissions, although implicit, that things are not going well. Things have not been running smoothly. Things are not efficient with the city. Those are all legal admissions that if you take those clips, those whether it's on the radio and you clip it, all that stuff would help you demonstrate to a court that, look, the city wasn't reasonable. They didn't, they weren't working efficiently. They had problems, self-admittedly had problems handling the pothole situation in Montreal. And that works in everyone's favor if they're making a claim or in front of a small claims court saying, I'd like to be reimbursed for all the damage that was caused to my vehicle because of a pothole.
Wow. So if I don't even know, I think there probably will have been that admission somewhere, although maybe the city's too smart to have done that. I'm not sure.
There have been many. I listen to CJAD when I'm in my car. There have been many. They talked about the fact that they didn't necessarily run the bids and processes, so they didn't have many companies qualifying to be able to. They also talked about the fact that they bought these automated machine trucks that repair them by themselves, but the problem is that they're always in the repair shop. So that's another admission. So, and not to mention, they had a record number of claims. I believe it's close to 4,000, if I'm not mistaken. And the average, if you look at the last 15 years, it's about 1,000 to 1,500 claims a year. We're at 4,000. So, yes, you can argue that it's not solely because there's more potholes on the road, but one could make the claim that we're 3 times as many claims as usual because the roads might be in the worst condition they've ever been in the last 50 years. So all that together really supports a claim that the city hasn't been doing their job in terms of maintenance and regular maintenance and in being efficient in dealing with potholes. And that makes it a lot easier for people who are going to obviously submit the claim to the city. But if those claims get rejected, you can go to the small claims court right after and try your luck there. And I can tell you, based on statistics, I think I've seen 1 out of 4. So if you submit to the city, if you have a pothole damage, you have 15 days to submit a claim online with the city. 1 out of 4 is successful, and I can tell you, a lot of those that are rejected are just because the people didn't file their claims properly. They didn't provide the documents that you needed. So
okay, well, so let me stop you there. That's advice. If you are one of those people, what do you have to do? What do you have to provide to have a better chance of winning your case?
Right. So when you run over a pothole and you have damage to your vehicle, the first thing you want to do, take pictures right away. Like, step out of your car, as long as it's safe, or you don't want to do so in the middle of a busy road. But if you can take pictures of the damage and pictures of the pothole and some pictures, maybe the street sign, where you're situated, so that we can clearly identify where the pothole was in relation to your vehicle. And then what you want to do is you want to get estimates from reputable car repair shops, whether it's a dealer or whatever it is. You want to get someone reputable to put the estimate down. If you've paid for it, even better. You provide your proof of payment, and you submit your claim online with all these supporting docs. And what I could tell you is, what many people do is they either don't do it within 15 days, they either don't provide any pictures. The estimate is just something that they included in the email. They don't provide a copy of the estimate. And sometimes those don't end up, getting a successful response from the city. But for those that do, from what I've heard and what people have told me, if they prepare their file properly, and one other thing, once you get that repaired, go back to the pothole and see how long after your accident was that pothole still there. Because if it was still there 2 or 3 or 4 weeks afterwards, your claim gets stronger and stronger and stronger if the city refuses to pay out, and you have to go to small claims court. Sometimes these damages are $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 or more. So it's worth taking the time to do this right.
So let me, if the city rejects your claim, and that doesn't involve you going to court, how does it work? The first part, before you even go to small claims court.
Yeah. So the first part is you submit your claim online on the City of Montreal's website. And then they give you a response. Usually the responses come within a month and a half.
Okay.
Now, you should keep your eye on the date, because you have 6 months from the time of when you get the pothole damage to file a claim with the small claims court. So if you file your online claim within 15 days, which is the legal limit for the city, and they don't answer you, 1 month passes, 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, if you're not getting any response from them and you call them and they still haven't responded, you might want to just go to the small claims court, open up your file, get a file number, and then proceed with that. Because not getting a response from the city and telling the court, well, listen, I didn't file within 6 months because the city never answered me, that's not a valid defense.
Right. Okay.
Keep your eye on the timer there, because you don't want it to pass 6 months.
And finally, with respect to how much, is there a limit on how much? Even if the city said, yeah, we're at fault, as to how much they would pay you back, or is that just simply a matter of how much did your repairs cost?
How much do your repairs cost? There's no limit. Absolutely not. Now, you also have your insurance and deductibles, and you can see what your policy accounts for. But with the city, there's no limit. And that goes for not just your vehicle, but any type of property damage that you suffer. It could be snow removal, could be contractors from the city. They may have scraped your paver stones or your fence or whatever it is. Any type of damage you get that resulted from a city or one of the representatives, the 15-day claim applies, and whatever the amount is, as long as you have the estimates to back it up, that's the amount that you're claiming for, and that's the amount that should be paid out if you check off all the boxes.
And last question, if you do end up in small claims because you have not been able to reach a deal with the city, what's the limit there that you can claim? Is there a limit in small claims now?
Yeah, so you're looking at like upwards of $15,000, but usually these types of cases don't involve that. Whenever there's more, whenever you start getting close to the $10,000 or $15,000 mark, it's a massive accident. I mean, you're talking about something very, very severe. So you want to make sure that you have a valid evaluation of what your damages are, because you might be leaving money on the table if you don't get it. And sometimes it's not visible, but you could have frame damage and other types of damages that are way above the $15,000 mark. So make sure you have a professional look and evaluate the actual extent of the damages.
Chris, thank you so much. Great information. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Aaron.
Take good care. Chris Dimakos, our CJAD 800 legal contributor. By the way, you can find these interviews if you want details on our website, right at CJAD800.com. If you didn't get it all right now, maybe that's you. Maybe you're trying to file a claim against the city and don't know exactly how to do it. There you go.
Unmistakably Canadian.
It's the music that raised you.
The artists raising the bar.
Hi, this is Bryan Adams.
Hey, my name's Brett Emmons. I'm from the Glorious Sons.
Hi, I'm Nelly Furtado.
Made in Canada. The station that champions Canadian music.
Loud, proud, and all yours.
No passports required. Just press play.
Tap into Made in Canada now on iHeartRadio.ca
Or the free iHeartRadio app.